So what have I been reading this week? I'll actually start by not telling you anything about what I've been reading, but with some channel news. I promise this isn't going to become a channel news channel where every other video is channel news. But there are a couple of things, some of which I've forgotten to say on the channel. So the first is that I just reached 200 subscribers. I actually reached it, then I dropped down, then I've reached it again. So maybe now I'm over the... I mean, we might have some of that YouTube yo-yo still for a few days, but hopefully that will keep progressing, and I'll be filming a 200 subs Q&A this coming week. So if you have any extra bonus Q&A, stick them in the comments. Second is a buddy read. I've already announced this, which is for Gene Wolfe, Book of the New Sun, Volume 1, Books 1 and 2, so Shadow and Claw. Shadow of the Torturer, Claw of the Conciliator. I'm doing that with Liam's Lyceum. I'll link his channel below, and we'll probably be filming a discussion of that at the end of the month, start of next month, which connects to the third thing, which is that I've forgotten to mention before that we did do a discussion video for Elric of Melniboné together on his channel, which I'll link that specifically in the description. Anyway, that is the channel news. Now for your regular reading update. I have had a really good reading week in terms of, especially in terms of reading fiction. I think the one thing about having often had little headspace for kind of expansive non-fiction reading this year for various reasons is that fiction hasn't suffered. That tends to be the case for me, is that I don't really mind. I don't really have slumps. I switch between things I want to read, and a lot of this year has been I've been quite good and happy to read fiction. So what I've been reading this week is 1, Chronicles of Amber by Roger Zelazny. This is an omnibus. I have read 3.5 of the 5 books. They're kind of in modern terms novella length really, but they're Hugo qualifying or Nebula qualifying for a novel, so they're novels, they're books. They're really good and they get better, and it's full of, there basically is consistent mystery. It reminds me in that sense of Lord of Light, where there's a lot of like what's going on, what's really happening, but even more so. And the tone is quite different to Lord of Light by Roger Zelazny, which I have reviewed on this channel and which I think is an all-time great sci-fi novel. So I'm really enjoying those. I went to the degree of thinking, man, I really want a set of the they're in the novels there are, because it's this sort of, I don't know, plane hopping multiverse hopping really thing about a family of sort of humans with magical powers to go through the multiverse from the true Earth, Amber they call it, and one of the magical devices they have is essentially a tarot deck with trumps which depict the family members, and then they can kind of contact each other or do other things with those trumps, and that's very cool and enjoyable. And though I'm not exactly into tarot as a modern spiritual activity, it's a cool medieval game, I was like, man, I wonder if there's actually some Amber trumps, and there's some really hard to find French versions of them, which apparently someone is now making a fan version of, like a fan reprint of. So I might actually go so far as to buy merchandise, which I don't buy merchandise. No offense to you merchandise junkies. I have also been reading, well, fairly obviously given it's the buddy read, Shadow of the Torturer by Gene Wolfe. Look at that cover, that Dying Earth cover. Only a few chapters in. This week I imagine I'll make a large amount of ground into it, because Chronicles of Amber has been the kind of main thing I've been reading this week in terms of fiction. But Shadow and Claw, well, Shadow so far is very good. It's Dying Earth, like Jack Vance in that sense, but it is much deeper immediately, and that's maybe inevitable because of the kind of writer Wolfe is. Gene Wolfe is one of the great literary artists of sci-fi fantasy, vastly underrated I suspect now, because we have the cult of the new, recency bias is so strong with us. But The Fifth Head of Cerberus, the one book I read by him, was kind of baffling but beautiful, and this so far is similar, not baffling, that's the wrong word perhaps, but certainly chewy, complex, many things going on. Fifth Head of Cerberus is 3 novellas about the same kind of stuff that aren't necessarily connected, and you're trying to work out what's going on between them. Here, the storytelling techniques for 1980, 1981 are quite bold, and the literary style is really fine, and I'm really enjoying it so far. The world building is really good as well. We will see in Book of the New Sun, there is a guy in the Torturers Guild who ends up betraying the guild because he falls in love with one of his victims. What a setup. On which note, Torturers, the other book I've read lots of, I'm about 60 to 66% of the way through Joe Abercrombie, The Blade Itself, First Law Book 1. This was a request when I did my 100 subs kind of video, which was a review request video basically. And I've really enjoyed this. I think I will probably make a video, as well as a review, I will probably make a spoiler discussion video comparing this and Lies of Locke Lamora. Same year, same sort of first flush post A Song of Ice and Fire, well, post the massive success of A Song of Ice and Fire. So what we call grimdark, even if perhaps these aren't always as grim as they could be. I mean, I'm fine with that. They're really interesting in comparison. They do some things very differently. They're really interested in different things, and there are some things that are similar, and they are two massive modern popular darlings, and I feel like it's worth talking about them. So I might do a comparison there. The one thing, the character work is great, the world building is enjoyable, some of it is very good, some of it is, I guess, just there, isn't it? It's not world building on the level of Lies of Locke Lamora, where the city, Kaymore, is so much of what the story is. But the character work, of course, is what people think of in terms of First Law, and he's very good at that. There is no plot so far, or in the sense the plot is very vestigial. Basically, the plot in the background behind the main characters, Logan, Jezzel and Glockter, and there are other kind of viewpoint characters too, but behind those three is the plot is more or less, there's some schemes and intrigues and corruption going on, the Inquisitors must find out about it, but also there's a war brewing. So there's 60% in that sense. The war plot is fairly vestigial so far, only just emerging. Some of the side stuff you hear about, some of the side stories you hear about have nothing to do with any real plot thread. And then the Glockter thread, which is about this investigation, it is pretty interesting, but it's not like a strong plot. It's not like a man, I'm so compelled about every part of this plot. That's not the kind of author Abercrombie is. I think he wants you to see the characters go through the plot rather than make you chiefly compelled by the effects and events of the plot. Anyway, so I've enjoyed that. Big reading week. I have also been reading, in terms of D&D adventures, I have been reading third-party first edition product called Deadly Power. A well-rated Rolaids product. Rolaids was Mayfair's kind of range of, well, aids to roleplay. And I've read one and run one of them before, Sword Thrust, which I probably will do a review on the channel. But yeah, I've enjoyed that too. I might actually do maybe I'll make it separate, but a mini D&D book haul at some point for the second edition books I've been getting. Anyway, because I've been expanding my second edition collection quite a lot. So anyway, what have you been reading this week? Do you have any questions for the 200 subs Q&A? Tell me in the comments. Till next time.